Hey guys, welcome to the Geometry Final Review video. We're starting with Chapter 1, Problem 1, and we're talking about a midpoint. So we have the segment AB, alright, and in the middle of it is C, which means that AC and CB are equal to each other. Well, AC equals x squared plus 5x, which is equal to CB, 8x plus 28. Now we haven't done this in a while, or you haven't done this in a while, but if you look at this, this is a squared, which means it's a quadratic, and we need to factor it. In order to factor it, we need to move everything over to the other side of the equation. So I'm going to subtract 8x, and I'm going to subtract 28. I'll be left with x squared minus 3x minus 28 equals 0. All right, we always need it to equal 0 because that's how we factor. So we're going to do our factor x. Remember, to get the number on top, we take 28, our C term, and multiply it by our A term, which is technically 1, even though we don't write it. So 28, and then we take our B term, the middle term, and put it at the bottom. And we think, hey, what multiplies to 28 and adds to 3? It would be negative 7 and 4. So over here, we have x minus 7 in one set of parentheses and x plus 4. It equals 0. Because we're using the zero product property, we have x minus 7 equals 0 as one of our answers, and x plus 4 equals 0 as another. I'm going to add 7 to solve for x, and add 7, and I'll get x equals 7. And I'm going to subtract 4 and subtract 4, and get x equals 4, negative 4. So my two answers are 7 and negative 4. Well, I'm not going to use the negative because it's distance, and I just want to stick with the positive. So when I'm finding AB, I'm going to choose to plug it back into CB, because I don't have to square anything, and the math just seems a little bit more simple. So I'm going to take 7 and plug it into CB. CB equals 8 times 7 plus 28, which is 56 plus 28. And when you combine those, you get 84. Well, remember, CB is only half of our segment, so we need to take that 84 and multiply it by 2. When you do that, you'll get 168. And that is our answer for the segment AB. All right, the next one that we want to go to is problem number 2, finding the midpoint. Hopefully you guys have written down on your note card the formula for a midpoint. And it's x1 plus x2 divided by 2, and y1 plus y2 divided by 2. So I'm going to say this is x1, and this is y1, x2, and y2. And I'm going to plug them into the equation. So negative 1 plus 3 divided by 2, and 2 plus negative 5. Divided by 2. All right, I will get 2 over 2 and 3 over 2, which 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 3 divided by 2 is 1.5. So that is the midpoint. And then we move down to the distance formula. Hopefully you also memorized or wrote this one down somewhere. x1 minus x2 squared plus y1 minus y2 squared. Again, I'll label my coordinates to make it easier and hopefully help me not make a mistake, and plug them in. So I'm going to take negative 4 minus 3, and I'll square it and add it to negative 6 minus negative 1, and square that. All right, well, I will end up with a negative 7 that needs to be squared, plus a negative 5 because two negatives side by side become a positive. So, bring this over here as I run out of room and have 49 plus 25, which equals rad 74. So the distance between these 2 points is rad 74, and you can leave it as a square root. That is totally fine. All right. Now we move down to problem number 4. And it said if C is between, it doesn't say anything about it being it's a midpoint. So if C is between A and B, and AC equals 3x plus 4, and CB equals 7x minus 12, and AB, the entire segment, equals 6x plus 20, find x and AB. So since these two segments, AC and CB, make up the whole segment, I'm going to add them together and set it equal to the whole segment. So I will take 3x plus 4 and add it to 7x minus 12 and set it equal to 6x plus 20. Don't forget I need to combine like terms, so I will end up with 10x and negative 8. It equals 6x plus 20. Now I want to get my x's on one side and my constants, my number without a variable, on another. So I'm going to take my work over here as I run out of room, and I'm going to add 8 and add 8 and end up with 4x equals 28. Divide by 4, x equals 7. All right, and there wasn't a place to solve for AB, so we can go ahead and pencil that in. I would take 7 and plug it back in, so AB would equal 6 times 7 plus 20. 6 times 7 is 42, plus 20. AB would equal 62. Whoops. And the property that I used here, when I finally solved, would be either the multiplication or division property of equality. Sorry for the mess, guys. All right, for number 5, once I get there, it says name the angle shown. Now remember, the vertex where the angle actually occurs is your middle letter. So you would say angle QMN. Start at one end, go to the vertex, and then to the other end. You could also start at this end and call it angle NMQ. The important thing is making sure the vertex angle is in the middle. All right, use the figure below to answer the question. The measure of angle 2 is x plus 21. The measure of angle 4 is 8x minus 42. All right, well, they give us 2 and 4, which hopefully you know or can recognize that these are vertical angles. Remember, they look like two little bird beaks kissing. We call them kissing angles to help us remember. So, because they're vertical, they're congruent, which means I can set 8x minus 42 equal to x plus 21. I want to go ahead and get my x's on one side, so I'm going to subtract x and subtract x, and my constants on another, so I'm going to add 42. I'll end up with 7x equals 63. Divide by 7, x equals 9. So, the question was, find the measure of angle 4 and the measure of angle 1. Well, I'm going to take this 9 and plug it back in to the measure of angle 4. Or I could plug it back into the measure of angle 2. Let's just go ahead and plug it back into the measure of angle 2. the measure of angle 2 equals 9 plus 21. Measure of angle 2 equals 30. So right here, I now know that this angle is 30 degrees. Well, if I look close enough, I'll see that 1 and 2, those two angles, form a straight line, a linear pair, which equals 180 degrees. So I'm going to take, in order to find angle 1, the measure of angle 1, and have 180 minus 30. Well, the measure of angle 1 equals 50 degrees. And if I look closely, I'll notice that 1 and 3 are also vertical. Oh, sorry, measure of angle 4 was the next one. I'll go ahead and plug it in, and I will know, because the measure of angle 2 and the measure of angle 4 were vertical, that the measure of angle 4 is also 30 degrees. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to number 7, a linear pair. Linear pair, guys, that means they form a straight line, and that together their measures are 180 degrees. So we can say this is A, and this is B, and A would be 4x plus 12, and B would be 2x plus 36. Well, together these two angles equal 180 degrees. So I would do 4x plus 12 plus 2x plus 36 equals 180. Remember, combining like terms is huge. 6x, and then my two constants, plus 48 equals 180. Move over the 48, subtract from both sides. 6x equals 132, and divide by 6, x equals 22. All right, so then we look down at this next problem, C and D. They're complementary, which means they equal 90 degrees. So if you like a little diagram, here is one for you. We'll say this is angle C, this is angle D. 8x minus 12 and 4x. Well, together these two angles, 8x minus 12 and 4x, equal 90 degrees. Again, I'm going to combine like terms. 12x minus 12 equals 90. I need to get 12x alone, so I'm going to add 12x to both sides. And I'll end up with 12x equals 102. Unfortunately, when I divide 12 and 102, x is a decimal. We don't love it, but that's the reality. So now I need to find the measure of angle C. I'm going to take this x and plug it back in. The measure of angle C equals 8 times 8.5 minus 12. The measure of angle C equals 56 degrees. All right, so down here we have some opposite rays, which form a straight line, which is 180 degrees. So I'm going to start by filling in some of the angles. This is 43, this is 71, this is 2x plus 19, and if I read here, MT, this segment bisects this angle, which means angle 2 and 3 are congruent. So this is also 2x plus 19. I'm going to take all of these angles, add them together, and set it equal to 180 because they are opposite rays and form a straight line. So 71 plus 43 plus 2 times 2x plus 19 equals 180. All right, 71 and 43 is 100 and, whoops, I'm getting ahead of myself here. I'll do, multiply these two out and get 4x plus 38 plus 71 plus 43 equals 180.